most of the world, the Democratic Republic of the Congo is nothing more than the heart of darkness, a vast territory of impenetrable jungle marked by ancient conflicts. This is the mental image that has been etched into the collective memory for decades. But if the common perception points to a geographic void on the map, reality reveals something entirely different. We are talking about the invisible engine that powers global technology, the owner of the deepest river on the planet, and the only place where magma breaks through the crust to form a permanent sea of lava. What emerges now is not the usual news images or pleas for humanitarian aid. It is the hidden gear of a giant that keeps the modern world running, and its secret is hidden precisely where few dare to look. If you close your eyes to imagine the Congo, you will likely see the frantic rhythm and vibrant colors of Kinshasa, and yes, they appear in this video. But if this is the only filter you have for this country, you are about to be surprised. Because the Congo is not what you imagine. It is a place that collapses your understanding of civilization, that contradicts everything conventional guides show, and that hides more stories in a single bend of a river than the modern world can process. This is the Congo, a place that exists on its own terms, where the silence guards a story that began long before humanity arrived, pulsing like the oldest voice on earth. To understand the immensity of this territory, the starting point is its water system. There is a river here that reaches 220 meters in depth in certain areas. It is an abyss so great that a 70-story building could be submerged without the top ever appearing on the surface. But what no one mentions is that this depth functions as an invisible biological wall. The extreme pressure and absolute darkness have created species of blind, pale fish that evolved in isolation on each bank, as if the river were an impassable ocean separating two distinct worlds. This force on the surface is only the beginning. This soil holds 70% of all the world's cobalt, the material that gives life to the batteries of the devices that billions of people carry in their pockets right now. Without this land, the mobile technology we know would simply cease to exist. The part that official records rarely highlight is that this same soil provided the uranium used in Little Boy, the first atomic bomb in history, dropped on Hiroshima in 1945 to end World War II. The place that today promises to save the planet through clean technology was the origin point of the mineral that created the most destructive weapon in human history. This mineral wealth shapes tomorrow, but the voice of the country is a labyrinth where hundreds of languages cross. Officially, this is the largest French-speaking country in the world, surpassing France itself in the number of people who use the language daily. The scale is so vast that there are more people speaking French here than in Paris and Lyon combined. Behind this official facade, however, communication happens through 700 different dialects. The little-known fact is that the army had to invent its own language so that soldiers wouldn't attack each other due to pure errors of interpretation. It is a survival strategy made of words. Oftentimes, reality takes on shapes that defy logic, especially when observing the phenomenon that comes to life daily on the dirt streets of the capital. There, elegance is not an aesthetic detail, but a social armor used as a shield. Men dedicate fortunes to pure silk suits and handmade Italian leather shoes to walk in places where the asphalt has never even arrived. A pair of these shoes represents the effort of 2 full years of work for an average citizen. However, the shine of the leather in the middle of the mud is not born of ostentation. It is a political response inherited from the colonial past. It is a cry from those who define their own dignity through impeccable posture, ignoring the precariousness of the infrastructure around them. Where elegance seeks the light, nature hides a silent threat at the bottom of the eastern waters. There is a lake that stores billions of cubic meters of methane and carbon dioxide at the bottom. It is as if nature had created a giant, toxic soda bottle beneath the surface. If the earth shakes, a sudden expulsion of gas could occur, forming an invisible cloud capable of suffocating millions of people in minutes. Local engineering found a way out. The methane is extracted from the deep waters through pipes and taken to power plants on the surface, where it is burned as fuel to spin electric turbines. What was once a stock of deadly gas has become the main source of light for the region, eliminating the dangerous pressure of the lake while illuminating thousands of homes. This same logic of survival allowed for the existence of a luxury palace lost in the middle of the thick jungle, in the locality of Bahdolet. In the 1970s, an airstrip was built there exclusively to receive the fastest jets in the world, those that broke the sound barrier on international flights. It was a monumental residence, surrounded by imported marble and gardens that mimicked European royalty. The detail that shows the force of time is what remains of this limitless ambition. Today, the luxury columns serve only as shelter for soldiers who pitch cloth tents inside the empty halls, guarding what is left of a wealth that the forest is slowly taking back. All this geological scale still leaves room for what science can barely explain. There is an animal that symbolizes the soul of this country, and which was only confirmed by the world in 1901. Until then, it was treated as the unicorn, a creature that few believed to be real. It evolved to be invisible in the shadows of a forest where sunlight rarely touches the ground. The Congo is the place where the past and the future face each other at every turn. It is the gear that keeps the world running while trying not to be swallowed by it. If the data seems abstract, the physical reality of the Congo is visceral. We leave the numbers behind to travel the coordinates where these forces collide. The journey now moves from the deep waters to the heart of the forest, revealing the greatness that remains preserved, far from the eyes of those who only explore the surface. Reaching the points of extreme depth in Enenga, in the lower Congo, requires abandoning safe commercial routes. Access to this isolation is achieved through heavy cargo boats or traditional dugout canoes, where satellite communication fails miles before the main rapids appear on the horizon. The brown waters seem to boil under the massive pressure rising from abysses 220 meters deep. The predominant sound is a low, constant roar, a physical vibration felt directly in the hull of the vessels. The air is heavy, saturated by a humidity that forms a film over the skin and carries the scent of rich earth mixed with decomposing vegetation. What externally appears to be just a waterway is, in fact, an ancient biological barrier. The secret lies in the depth that acts as a radical separator of species. Beings from one bank have never crossed to the opposite side, resulting in pale, blind fish that biology is still struggling to catalog. Local fishermen defy this brute force by diving into fatal rapids with only wicker baskets attached to wooden scaffolds. It is proof that nature in the Congo does not accept being tamed. It only tolerates human presence under conditions of extreme risk. The brute force of the river finds an urban parallel in the energy of 17 million people, where apparent chaos functions as its own system of order. Entering Kinshasa is an immediate temperature shock, with thermometers hitting 35 degrees and the air impregnated with the smell of diesel generator smoke. Crowds occupy every inch between thousands of yellow taxis. The sound is a rhythmic wall of local music echoing from every corner, mixed with the noise of engines and the aroma of fish grilled on improvised coals on the sidewalks. Contrary to what the crisis statistics suggest, the city is the ultimate cultural engine of Central Africa. It is the place where aesthetics carry the same vital weight as food. These masters of elegance, known as sapours, parade pure silk through the mud of unpaved neighborhoods, transforming precariousness into a stage for political resistance. Dignity is maintained through impeccable suits, proving that the human image can shine with intensity even in the absence of basic infrastructure. The noise of the capital gives way to the tense silence of the eastern mountains. Located in the North Kivu province, Mount Nyiragongo rises over the city of Goma like a constant sentinel of fire. Access to the summit requires armed escorts and an exhausting 6-hour climb over unstable, sharp volcanic soil. At the top, the view reveals the largest permanent lava lake on the planet, a sea of incandescent magma bubbling hundreds of meters below the rim of the crater. The smell of sulfur is strong enough to irritate the nostrils, while the roar of the lava hitting the rock walls resembles the waves of an ocean of flames. The temperature at the top is biting and freezing, creating a violent thermal contrast with the radiant heat emanating from the depths. This giant is part of Virunga National Park, the last refuge of the mountain gorillas. The secret of its existence lies in extreme militarized surveillance. The forest guards sleep on the edge of the volcano and risk their lives daily against militias trying to control the illegal charcoal trade. The preservation of the forest here is not an aesthetic choice, but a human shield, where every protected tree has a real cost in blood. The volcanic tension finds a silent mirror in Bukavu. Access to this city on the shores of Lake Kivu reveals emerald blue waters surrounded by hills that evoke European landscapes. Decadent colonial-era mansions have gardens that touch the water's edge under a cool mountain breeze. The air is dominated by the smell of high-quality coffee and damp earth. The geological secret of this paradise is the presence of billions of cubic meters of methane and carbon dioxide accumulated under the lake bed. The local population maintains the tradition of celebrating life with Rumba parties, dancing over a gas reserve capable of suffocating entire cities in the event of an earthquake. In this setting, resilience ceases to be a concept and becomes a way of life. The ability to build a vibrant identity, even knowing that the soil and water around you hide billions of cubic meters of methane and carbon dioxide, lethal gases ready to be released at the slightest sign of a tremor. The soul of the territory lies where asphalt and engines disappear completely. Access to the Okapi Reserve requires days of travel along trails that the jungle tries to reclaim with every rain. There, you find the primary tropical forest, a wall of vegetation 90 meters high, where sunlight rarely reaches the ground. The ambient sound is a continuous hum of millions of cicadas, and the air carries a humidity of 90%, making every breath feel dense. It is in this sanctuary that the okapi lives, a creature of improbable anatomy. It has a robust, velvet brown body and legs with white stripes that evoke a zebra, even though it is the only living relative of the giraffe. The secret of its survival in such a hostile environment lies in its blue prehensile tongue, long enough to clean its own eyes and pluck leaves at inaccessible heights. Watched closely by the attentive eyes of the Mbuti pygmies, a people who master paths invisible to any satellite, the okapi remains as the living spirit of the forest, an elusive being that defies science and prefers the shadows to human contact. More than a territory, the Congo is the pulsing heart of a planet that depends on its soil to move forward. We have seen a giant that sustains the global future while protecting millenary secrets in the darkness. If this journey surprised you, subscribe and turn on the bell. In the next episode, we will explore a territory where the calendar has 13 months and time runs 7 years behind the rest of the planet. A kingdom that guards the origin of our species and sacred relics. Are you ready?